If you follow your nose down Main Street Woodland, the smell of chow mein and fried rice might just take you inside the Chicago Cafe Chinese American restaurant. This little mom-and-pop restaurant is within walking distance of the Yolo County Courthouse, and that's why you'll often find longtime regular and UC Davis law professor Gabriel Jack Chin sliding his fork into the cafe's signature dish during lunch hour.
This is a Chicago combination plate for one, and this is one of their specialties.
Jack, as he likes to be called, first tasted the Chicago combo plate back in 2011 inside one of the restaurant's private booths. It's a seating arrangement that's rarely found anymore.
There were ordinances prohibiting these kinds of private booths, and not very many of them survived.
Over the years, Jack has looked over the menu countless times, but it wasn't until recently that he noticed something.
It's not just a Chinese American restaurant. It is, I believe, the oldest continuously operating Chinese restaurant in the United States.
Welcome to the Pekin Noodle Parlor, the oldest family-owned Chinese restaurant in America.
Back in 2022, the Pekin Noodle Parlor in Butte, Montana gained a lot of headlines when someone thought it was the nation's oldest Chinese restaurant.
That's Jerry Tam. His great-great-grandfather founded the Pekin Noodle Parlor in Butte, Montana all the way back in 1911.
When Jack saw these headlines about the Pekin Noodle, it made him think about the Chicago Cafe.
The Chicago Cafe advertises everywhere that they've been open since 1903. 1903.
My grandfather studied. My dad here,
Paul Fong and his wife Nancy are the third-generation owners of the Chicago Cafe.
And my dad right there, all the customer right there, right here cooking.
And if you look around the restaurant, the family's history is displayed like a museum. Out back, there's even a historic plaque marking the location of the old Fong family home, which was once attached to the restaurant.
They clearly have a sense of the history, so they kept some of the old documents, old menus.
By researching the restaurant's old documents and archived newspapers, Jack and a team of UC Davis students were able to find evidence of the restaurant's existence in 1903, but when they looked at records from the city of Woodland, there was almost no mention of the restaurant.
In 1903, 1904, through into the 20s, the business directories for Woodland and Yolo County did not include Chinese residences or Chinese businesses.
Because of the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, discrimination against Asian immigrants across America was widely accepted until the Exclusion Act was repealed in 1943.
It was a series of laws that were designed to restrict Asian immigration to protect white labor.
Restaurants were some of the only businesses under the Exclusion Act that allowed Chinese and Asian immigrants to legally operate a business. It's a topic that Jack discusses in a book he wrote about the history of law and Chinese restaurants.
So this was a place where Asians could work.
So restaurants were kind of like the doorway or the gateway into the United States working here.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
The Chicago Cafe may have experienced some discrimination in the past, but you wouldn't know it today.
The food's good. You meet old friends here.
Many of the longtime customers here were practically raised eating the food that Paul and Nancy cooked.
So I would have to walk up the alley after school and come here, and then Mom would get me in that room over there to do if I had any kind of homework.
The Chicago Cafe is not just a Chinese restaurant. It's a gathering place, a bit of a museum, and the unofficial community trophy case where customers display their taxidermy deer, fish, and even a peacock that someone hit with their car.
So the guy among the bird open the tail like that.
The community loves Chicago Cafe, and it allowed Paul's grandfather and father to immigrate to America from China. It also allowed Paul and Nancy to provide a better life for their children.
My daughter is the doctor in the Kaiser in the physical therapy. And then my son work in the Apple. They all make good money.
Since 1903, the Fong family has been serving food and the community. But with no kids to take over, the Chicago Cafe dynasty looks like it could be coming to an end. Are you going to be sad when you leave the place?
No time to. I tell the music guy already. I want to lease out so I can retire.
When the oldest continually operating Chinese restaurant in America does close, there probably will be some tears from customers, but there also will be some laughs from the owners.
The joke is that you work in a Chinese restaurant so your kids don't have to work in a Chinese restaurant. And that worked.
From the Chicago Cafe in Woodland, I'm John Bartel.
From Bearsong Elementary to JFK High, Russell Okubo grew up in the halls of Sacramento schools.
As I got older, just being taught family values and consideration for others.
A simple life. That's how Russell would describe his childhood. Home before the streetlights turned on and constant family dinners, but challenges did face him and those who look like him.
I'm third generation Japanese. So our parents were interned in camp, the second generation after World War II. So when they got out of camp and they started having families, we all got names, the third generation, Rick, Dan, Mike, Mary. Some of us got maybe a Japanese middle name, but they tried to Americanize us as best as possible. They never spoke Japanese in the house at all, so we lost that value.
Russell says he felt at times he missed out on parts of his heritage as his parents never spoke Japanese in the home and hopes to adjust to life in America. So he set out to reconnect with his roots.
What I did was I took multiple trips to Japan as I got older. And then I started to realize, their culture and how it works. And, and the society there and here is very, very, very different. Here, it's almost a very relaxed society, where in Japan it's very punctual. There's a lot of consideration for others. Like some Japanese almost put themselves second.
On his first trip, Russell says he felt out of place, recalling feeling divided on his heritage and where he was born.
A little bit of fish out of water. I was still pretty young, and I had an incident on an airplane where I'm filling out my immigration cards, and then I get to immigration, and I wrote it on the card. It says nationality. I wrote Japanese, so I present it to the guy at the immigration booth, and he returns my paper. He says, "You're not Japanese. You're American. Change it."
To stay connected to his culture, he opened up Fuji, a restaurant that originally was one of the first Japanese restaurants in Sacramento. Today, the heirlooms of his nephew's grandmother decorate the walls. Language lessons in the bathroom.
Question number 1. How do you say tuna in Japanese? Maguro.
As he continues to pay homage to the original restaurant and what it meant to his community.
This building that we're in now was kind of a special place because I was here as a kid, 15, 16, 17 years old, because Fuji Sukiyaki was here for 38 years. And the Fujita family ended up retiring, and they closed, and this building was vacant for about 7-8 years. So I thought, I would bring it back. So, I had to call Bob and get the blessing and say, I have an idea. I want to kind of bring it back, to bring back what was here for so many years.
Located on Broadway, Fuji shares the name and concept of the Japanese restaurant that previously occupied the spot. Keeping the stories of those that came before him is also important to Russell, so that the next generation knows the shoulders of their ancestors that they stand on.
A lot of the people my parents' age are depleting, because like my father's going to be 99. So that Nisei generation, they're slowly, passing. So there's not a lot left of them, the original Japanese. One thing I know about Japanese Americans, most of them didn't complain about, I was interned, I had a horrible life and poor me. They never did the poor me thing. They just said, we got to work harder.
Hi everybody, my name is Celine Chin. I am Chinese Vietnamese American. I'm a current 11th grade student in high school and the founder and executive director of the Reclamation Project at 916. The Reclamation Project at 916 is a 100% youth-run, grassroots social justice organization spearheading movements, education, and community power for youth equity, solidarity, and liberation. I started this when I was in 8th grade. I wanted a space where youth could reclaim their agency against systems of oppression. My parents met as working-class immigrants in Sacramento, and they lived in the Little Saigon area and been through stuff that I couldn't even imagine: grief, poverty, families experiencing American warfare. As much as my upbringing was threaded with this generational dissonance and almost generational trauma, I was never told that my ideas were unimportant, and that made me be unapologetic in my voice and taking up space that I entered. And I feel like when liberation comes from young people, it is so special because we are directly in a time where we're growing up with our experiences in our personhood, but also experiencing the systemic inequities. It is important to recognize AAPI Heritage Month, but I also want to say that it's important to recognize it accurately. Often we see these mainstream representations of us, and we often forget that throughout history, we have been at the front lines of protests, demonstrations, racial and social political shifts. I tap into the past in learning about past Asian American leaders, including Yuri Kochiyama, Ray Boggs, people who were on the ground in the civil rights movement. And I felt that this was a history that was taken from me, which I was properly owed. And if we learn more about Asian American history and know how we were at the forefront of these movements, we find our places in this climate and know that we do have a role. I want to build my base in Sacramento and inspire the next generation of young leaders to take on community organizing. And wherever I go, I will take the messages of the people who stand with me and who have shaped me with me.
Like threads in a cloth, individual people come together to form something bigger and stronger than themselves.
I was studying anthropology, and I was really interested in learning about myself and my history and heritage. And I found that through our clothing and our textiles, because I learned that actually clothing is connected to land. It represents the regions we're from, the different countries that different people live in, and really trace our diaspora and our migration.
Pachia Lucy Vang is a textile artist, researcher, and teacher specializing in the handcrafted clothing and stitching of her Hmong culture.
We've just always been encouraged to understand who we are and where we came from. And I think a big part of that is because the Hmong people don't have a country. And so these types of art forms have been really important in helping us maintain a sense of individual identity, group identity. It's helped us carry on our history and our heritage.
The Hmong are an ethnic group with a distinct language and culture, but no country of their own. They trace their roots to China, but many migrated to Southeast Asia to escape conflict in the 1800s, and a more recent conflict brought many to the U.S. At the Hope Center in North Sacramento, a Hmong cultural and community center, Vang teaches a workshop every other Saturday morning.
This is a traditional design that usually goes on funeral pieces that are worn on the body in the casket. It's made to go on the back of a jacket for women. So we're learning this pattern.
The bi-weekly workshops, which go through August, teach the art of bandao, Hmong for flower cloth, a tradition with many variations stretching back centuries, and one that evolved during a dark time for the Hmong people, from flower cloths to story cloths.
So this is a diaspora story cloth, and story cloths were actually made in the refugee camps.
During the Vietnam War, the U.S. military also engaged in what's known as the Secret War in the neighboring country of Laos, recruiting Hmong men and boys living there to fight against the communist movement.
The Hmong were recruited to help the American CIA. And once the Americans left Vietnam, then those recruitments left Laos. And so many of the people, Hmong, Mien, Lao, who were assisting the American military efforts there, were left behind.
Starting in the mid-1970s, many Hmong people fled Laos for fear of persecution by the communist regime.
AANHPI Bridge, for example, is depicted here. That was an incident where people were trying to cross the AANHPI Bridge. Soldiers opened fire and killed a lot of Hmong people trying to leave Laos.
These are Laos's newest refugees being evacuated just before the communists moved in. The most tragic victims of the seesaw, not-so-secret war in Laos are the refugees.
Many settled in refugee camps in Thailand, where Bandao evolved into story cloths created by Hmong women to keep their history alive and support their families by selling their artwork.
There's different types of story cloths, like some document folk tales, some document historical events, and then others document migration.
For generations, the Hmong had no written language. Culture was passed down through oral tradition and in Bandao.
The myth goes that when we had our kingdom and our autonomy in China, we actually had a writing system. But because we became displaced, we lost that writing system. Throughout time, we were able to hold on to these different symbols that used to be a part of our writing system by putting it onto our clothing.
Eventually, many Hmong refugees resettled in Europe and the US, with tens of thousands moving to Northern California and the Central Valley. Like Lu Li, who learned Bandao as a girl growing up in Laos. Later, while a young mother living in a refugee camp in Thailand, Li sewed and sold Bandao to support her family. She still has the needle she used in the camp. She then resettled in Minnesota and eventually California.
This one she actually made for the class so that she could show them all the different things you can do with cross-stitching.
This elder artisan now helps teach at Vang's workshop, sharing the skills she has honed over a lifetime.
This is my first piece ever that I finished.
Angelina Zhang learned Bandao from her mom when she was a kid and is taking this workshop to learn more about the history of the art form and her Hmong heritage.
It's a hobby, yes, but it's also learning about yourself and your culture.
This mom of 4 is accompanied by her eldest daughter, Penelope Rose.
I usually just pick colors that represent me, that make me feel like it looks pretty.
I wanted her to learn a little bit more about our culture altogether.
Yeah, I think it's really special.
A special tradition that makes a special gift.
Pass away nữa. Cụ cho mình nhỏ lớn cho cụ chỉ có là sót bộ ai là sai ở đại ban đâu nào thì cụ nhớ sai tị của thế đại ban đâu nào giờ ban đâu lâu.
She wants to give one to each of her children so that when she passes, they can remember not to be sad.
Cụ tôi đây đâu ba chia.
And she made me one so that I can remember her.
Passing down culture, stories, and love. A thread running from generation to generation to generation.
When they hear the beat, these Sacramento seniors can't help but get up and dance. For decades, moving to the rhythms of the cha-cha and tap into the bass of a swing with Tsubaki Dance Club.
We just love to dance. We enjoy the music of the era. Most of the music is from the 50s and 60s.
Tsubaki Dance Club was founded in the early 80s in Sacramento, named after the Japanese word for camellia flower, which was adopted as the city of Sacramento's official flower back in the 1940s. At its height, the dance club was comprised of more than 50 couples. Even decades later, members continue to gather for monthly dance socials, a time of fellowship, and most importantly, to share their passion for ballroom dancing.
We're just trying to enjoy the people and dancing.
Yeah, while we can still move.
You'll find longtime members Paco and Ruth Madlang Bayan on the dance floor.
It's been an adventure, I guess. Most of the people here are about the same age. You pretty much grow together.
The Madlang Bayans are first-generation Filipino immigrants who came to the United States in the 70s. They joined Tsubaki Dance Club more than 15 years ago. When the group first formed, it was originally an entirely Japanese group. President Ernie Fernandez tells me there's history there. When people of Japanese descent were forced into internment camps during World War II, young people learned ballroom dancing to pass the time, swinging to the big band sounds. This a photo from 1942 at a camp in Manzanar, located in the Owens Valley of California between the Sierra Nevada and the Inyo Mountains.
They didn't have anything to do, so they took up dancing, the younger ones.
But over the years, Tsubaki Dance Club expanded to welcome folks from all ethnicities and backgrounds. Kim Lind-yi and his wife Ellen are Chinese and joined more than 25 years ago. The couple together for nearly 60.
Dancing is, I think, one of the most romantic things you could do when you get danced together. But it's not easy. It took a lot of years of lessons to be able to do different ballroom dances.
As the years go by, some members spend more time catching up with old friends than waltzing around the room. You'll find George Lee by the speakers, one of the group's original DJs.
So I could pick all the music that I like to play.
He joined just 1 month after the group was formed, getting people up on their feet with music from cassette tapes.
Because if somebody wanted a certain song, it's hard to find it. Then the CDs came out, then it makes it much easier.
A vast knowledge of artists and the greatest hits, ones he keeps in a binder and shares with DJs he's passed on the torch to.
I don't dance as much anymore, but I enjoy listening to the music.
Music bringing people together.
The most important thing is that it's something we can do together and enjoy together.
While at the end of the night the music fades and it's time to go home, the friendships still remain. A group with history and members with a passion for dance.
1, 2, cha-cha-cha.
That help it stand the test of time.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Dr. Sarah Kiani. I'm Pakistani and I'm the co-founder of Zeem Medical Group. So I was born and raised in Pakistan and I was 11 when I moved to the United States. My father served the Pakistani Army and my mom was a physician in Pakistan as well. My father's career and the Pakistani Army really instilled those deep values of discipline in me, determination and resilience. And my mom, who's a beacon of empathy, care, and compassion, really helped me to be the person I am today. So I started my Instagram platform about a couple years ago. I share bits and pieces of my life, whether it's work-life balance, motherhood, cooking, hacks for moms, organization skills, motivational things, how to be positive in life, wellness, mental health. So it's really a holistic approach to like what our well-being is. So I really want Muslim women and children to own up to their identity and share their similar struggles that we have all had living abroad and be able to overcome those as a community together. Tarbiyya Institute really caught our eye in terms of how collaborative and how welcoming they are. I decided to go up to the imam and go up to the staff in Tarbiyya and share my idea of a mommy and me group. And that would include kids 0 to 10 years old who are really young and need those basic Islamic values, but also have their parents involved. It's amazing to see how much those kids have grown in their confidence and their resilience just by owning up to their identity, whether that's wearing the hijab, whether that's wearing modest clothing, or being in the masjid around your friends, or talking about your religion and your culture. Being Pakistani to me means having a rich cultural background and strong Islamic values. I feel like both of these are really intertwined with the value that I bring to others and my family.
During the second week in April, the streets of Stockton filled with vibrant colors and the aroma of South Asian food. This is Vaisakhi, one of the biggest Sikh celebrations in California.
And right now we have Sikhs from across the world who came here to gather and celebrate this event.
The event honors the spiritual leaders who unified the Sikhs more than 500 years ago and formalized the faith, which focuses on equality of all humankind.
People came here to celebrate community, celebrate equality, celebrate love.
Sikhism started as a small faith in Punjab, India, with a heavy emphasis on social justice, but today it's one of the largest religions found all over the world. And one reason it's so large in the United States has a lot to do with this building in Stockton, founded by Punjabi immigrants and farmers from the Central Valley.
Yeah, this is the first Gurdwara, the first building for Sikhs in the United States.
The Stockton Gurdwara became the site of activism. Sikhs in California met in this building and strategized how to protect and empower their home state of Punjab.
And this is the old first Gurdwara that was built in 1915, and this is a California historical landmark now.
Tejpal Singh Benyawal and Manjeet Singh Opal with the Gurdwara say this building is more than just a place of worship. It's a community center, an educational institution, and a museum. But more importantly, this building was part of the largest independent movement for Sikhs in India.
History's greatest exodus.
It started here, and they went back and fought. Over 5,000 people went back and fought for independent India.
For more than 200 years, British colonialism ruled over much of India by controlling politics, land, and resources. Sikhs in Punjab were different, though. The British needed them to fight in their military.
And they knew they were warriors, they were fighters, and British needed soldiers.
Many Sikhs left Punjab in the late 1800s in search of a better life, and some of those Sikhs ended up in Stockton.
Arbitration of India's political problems still remains unsolved.
A lot of these were laborers working on lumber mills, railroads, working the fields.
Sikhs were not always treated kindly in California. At the time, a series of discriminatory laws were in the process of being enacted, which targeted Asian immigrants, including Sikhs.
8 or 9 months after they purchased this land in South Stockton, California passed the Alien Land Law Act, which then prohibited Asians from owning land. So they beat it by a few months.
Sikh farmers and laborers across California donated time and money to build the Stockton Gurdwara, which opened in 1912. But over in India, a revolution was starting. Sikhs wanted to become independent of British rule.
When they came to America, that's when they realized what freedom is, what our Guru was teaching us, what the freedom looks like.
The Stockton Gurdwara became a site of activism. Sikhs in California met in this building and strategized how to protect and empower their home state in Punjab.
Respected speakers from across the world will come here and talk about freedom and talk about sovereignty.
Activism at the Stockton Gurdwara significantly helped Sikhs and ultimately India gain independence from British rule in 1947. But that independence didn't make life easier for Sikhs in the United States.
I believe the most recent FBI reports show that Sikhs are amongst the top targeted religious community in the U.S.
Before and especially after the terrorist attacks on 9/11, the Sikh community has been confused with terrorist groups because they covered their heads or wore turbans.
When Iran crisis happened during Jimmy Carter year, we were Iranians. Then Iraq happened, we're Iraqis. When Afghan happened, we're Afghan. So we're kind of transcended to everything,
The Sikhs have been fighting discrimination and racism since the religion was formed in the 15th century. And one way they fight back is by taking the time to learn.
Sikhs ultimately translates to student, and it derives from the word sikhna, which means to learn. So Sikhs are just learners of life.
One reason Sikhs wear the head coverings or turbans is to signify equality. And the Sikhs believe if everyone is equal, it is easier to break bread together and talk about those differences.
Yeah, so this is the Langar Hall, the community kitchen as we mentioned, and this is where we pass out langar or food to the community.
That's why every day the Stockton Gurdwara welcomes the community to a free dinner. It's a chance for everyone to learn about Sikhism and for Sikhs to learn about their neighbors as equals.
Doesn't matter if they're a doctor, if they're a laborer, agricultural worker, again, a teacher. Everyone comes together and sits at a common ground and breaks the same meal together.
The Stockton Gurdwara is more than a building. It represents history and freedom for the Sikh community.
Just sitting here and thinking about that and the same conversations just to be a fly on the wall in this room 100 years ago. It gives me goosebumps even to this day.
From the Gurdwara in Stockton, I'm John Bartel.
We're the best kept secret in Sacramento. The Mandarins started out as the Yi-Wa Drum and Lyre Corps, or Drum and Bell Corps, as a safe space for the Chinese youth of Sacramento, because at that time, there really wasn't much socially that the Chinese kids could be doing, participating in. And all those years I was marching, all I wanted to do was acclimate and be part of American society. So while I had my Chinese roots, I was really taken how drum corps really helped me to integrate into the community. In 1967, they added bugles to it and became a drum and bugle corps. And then the name was changed by the members. They selected the name the Mandarins, which is like a ruling class in ancient China.
The corps members each year get a necklace to kind of represent the fact that they're a member of the organization. And each year that they march, they get a small Chinese coin that goes on their necklace, not only to signify one more year of them being within the ensemble, but also kind of help remind them of their heritage. What does this corps mean? Where did it come from?
Music is international. Music is universal. It's the universal language. So the four founding fathers felt that this was a really good way to give back to the community and provide that service. Today, the Mandarins of Sacramento has many programs. One is the Mandarins Music Academy.
And the whole idea was, if we have a good organization that's well respected, but it's only providing for 100 kids, why not try to reach out to more and more kids throughout the community and impact their lives? So around 2016 or so, we had the idea of let's just start a program. So we went out to Earhart Elementary School within the Elk Grove Unified School District, and we started a program. We provide everything for the kids. And we provide the music director, t-shirts like this. We provide the instrument, the book, all of the accessories.
We have now a Mandarins Music Academy band in every one of our elementary schools. We're not done yet. It's just a step in the process of having arts education available for all students in elementary schools.
So that was the start of this widespread program that we have now, which now has over 1,300 kids at 45 schools.
I currently have one son. He's a 5th grader at Samuel Kennedy in the program. It's really helped him learn how to calm down and, focus on the task, and made him a better learner.
I think being in the Mandarins creates confidence in them.
Being in band, being part of a bigger group, feeling like part of something bigger, that is invaluable to her.
I love doing music, and it's fun to see all my band friends too.
1, 2, 3. Ready, set, breathe. Bum, ba-dum, 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 bum, bum.
So our music directors are really special people. They are what makes this program work. A number of our music directors are also music students themselves. And so we have a fantastic partnership with the Sac State School of Music, together with Los Rios Community College.
It's great to experience working with such young students and getting to apply what I'm learning in college. It's awesome. I definitely see the joy and the light in their eye when they get to pick up an instrument and learn something new.
Have your kids do drum corps, have your kids do band. Keep kids in music in school. Just let them keep going, and they could do amazing things in the future.
My name is Josh Kaizuka. I'm the co-president of the Florence chapter of the Japanese American Citizens League with the Japanese American community. Our history goes back to 1935. Today, we're also fighting against, speaking out against alien land laws. We're putting on educational programs and speaking out against those kind of racial and discriminatory laws that are going into place in other parts of the country. I'm an attorney in Sacramento. I focus on criminal defense. I think when I started out in my legal career as a public defender, right out of law school, I found it very rewarding work. Being the shield against big government and fighting for the constitutional rights of the people who most need the help kind of transfers into the work that I'm currently doing, which is really working for and being a voice for communities of color that have been marginalized, been targeted. Today, there are more Asian Americans, Japanese Americans speaking out, not just for their rights, but for the rights of others. Because of the history of what happened to the Japanese American community, right after the attack on Pearl Harbor, incarceration in concentration camps in the US, we can use those things that happened in the past to say we don't want anything like that to happen to anyone else. There's more of us that are willing to get out and do the work.
Behind every strawberry, there's a story. The snap of the vine is just the beginning. For Chun Se Lee, the owner of Lee's Berries in Sacramento, life wasn't always this sweet.
The security of all Southeast Asia will be endangered.
At 10 years old, Chan and her family fled Laos during the Laotian Civil War and lived in refugee camps in Thailand. Thousands of UMien people helped the U.S. in Southeast conflicts fighting communism. Sensei Turn, a writer who's preserving the stories of his community, says this story is a familiar story for many UMien families, including his own. Because of their migration and political involvement, UMien Americans also identify as Southeast Asian.
UMien people are indigenous Chinese people who have always lived off the land and fled conflict. So they migrated to Southeast Asia, where they were caught in the crossfire of the Vietnam War.
After being granted refuge in the United States,
there are 30,000 of us here, with 15,000 being in the Sacramento area.
Chan and her family came to Sacramento more than 30 years ago. With no education and children to feed, she worried about finding work. But there was one thing she did know. And so she did. Learning a trade passed on from Japanese Americans to Hmong immigrants to UMien people.
UMien strawberry farms is a cultural phenomenon in Sacramento. It's part of our identity as UMien Americans, and I think it's part of our identity as Sacramentans.
A story of survival that grew.
There are about 100 strawberry farms run by UMien people. Most of this was through word of mouth. Our parents pretty much calling each other like, hey, this is how you can make a living.
After years of working on other family strawberry fields, the family finally saved up enough money to lease their own land. Even their last names tell a story.
This place is called Lee's Strawberries, short for Se Lee.
Se is a prefix found in UMien last names.
When we went through the refugee camps in Thailand, the way they processed us, they affixed the Thai word Se, which means clan. So the direct translation is clan name.
And Lee is one of 12 UMien clan names. The Se Lee family turned this barren land into the lush field it is today. On Florin Perkins Road, customers are rolling in.
Hi.
Some with their own strawberry stories.
When I was young, I used to help my grandparents at their strawberry stand, and this is the closest thing that I can get to that. So we come here every week. I just think it's important that my kids and my family knows where their food comes from.
Sen also standing on familiar ground.
I have become a strawberry snob.
And earned right.
I could definitely taste when it's out of season, when it's not ripe enough.
When you farm them yourself.
Well, I think strawberry farms is kind of a part of my identity, that I grew up with it.
As time changes, so does the strawberry story of the UMien people.
It's a dying legacy that's facing a succession crisis. So most of the farms are run by first-generation immigrants, and they're aging out.
Younger generations are planting their own roots.
Honestly, it's hard work, and they have more opportunities here, especially with education. There's no language barrier for them, so they can move beyond just being a farmer, and I think that's what their parents want from them.
A seed planted for future generations. A strawberry and a story worth sharing.
And then this is her, my mom.
Through treasured photos, Les and Leanne Fong remember their mother's love.
Growing up, you never appreciate your mom until you get older.
Esther Fong was a busy mom of 3 and a pillar of the community.
She was always there for us. Mom interacted with all of us and the community in such a positive way.
Fong became the first Chinese American teacher in the Stockton Unified School District in 1950.
And she always bragged she really never missed a day of school.
Fong taught students for 33 years.
What was this? This is at the ribbon cutting.
But the journey to becoming an educator wasn't easy.
Our grandfather immigrated from China back in 1905. Mom was first generation born in Stockton.
When she started kindergarten, she said she didn't know any English. She graduated from high school 1946. A teacher encouraged her that she could be a teacher and she'd be an excellent teacher. She went ahead, went to college, knowing that she may not get a job.
Chinese people were targets of discrimination. They were prohibited for centuries from becoming U.S. citizens, limiting their access to jobs. But Fong defied the odds.
She was really proud of that fact that she was a trailblazer, right? And she was recognized for her accomplishments.
She taught students at Washington, Madison, and Hoover elementary schools in Stockton. She retired in 1983.
We're still remembering her and still paying tribute to the strong work that she did.
Stockton Unified is providing resources for students and staff to learn about Fong and other figures throughout the month of May.
It's really an honor and special to be able to recognize her legacy. And so although it was in the 50s that she was actually inspiring children, what we know from just her legacy is that her work continued to inspire people for generations to come.
Esther Fong passed away in 2016 at 88 years old.
This is in Stockton? This is in Stockton. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For Les and Leanne, their message is,
Mom, you did good. I mean, you raised 3 great kids. Your grandkids are very successful. And I mean, they're very fond memories.
I know she's listening in and she's shaking her head and saying, I just don't want all this fuss. And I would say, enjoy it. You did good, you worked hard, and it's okay to let people pat you on the back and say you did good.
Hi, my name is Lu Tao, and I am the owner of Jimmy's Soul Food and Hmong Cuisine, and I am Hmong. Jimmy's, I believe, started in the 1980s. It was originally a soul food place, and me and my family took over in 2013. There's a lot of Hmong population around our area here in the northern Sacramento area, and it's always hard to get Hmong food to go to eat. So I figured that, hey, if I have a soul food restaurant and I have all the equipment ready, I could just cook up easy Hmong food to go. Our food takes a lot of time to prep, so I just provide the simplest food that could be cooked the fastest way. If we don't represent ourselves here, a lot of people mistaken us for Chinese or Vietnamese. So over here, opening a business like this, it really puts our name out there and our food out there. I believe family is very important value in our Hmong culture as a system of supporting each other. At a young age for me, I believe when we were in junior high and stuff, my dad started his real estate business. So he's always focused on working, involving us in all the stuff he does, and really opened our eyes as a youth to business and learning and wanting to run our own business and be our own boss. In that mentality when we were growing up, even though I went to work, I always wanted to do things for myself and put my community out there, provide our service to our people.
With the bangs of the gongs to the pops of the firecrackers and the burning of the incense, these are all the signs of the Qingming Festival.
Qingming is essentially where the families come to their ancestors' grave sites, they clean them, they make offerings.
Located off Highway 49 in Auburn, the Chinese cemetery is where many Chinese immigrants were buried in the early 19th century. They came to the area in hopes of a better life and to look for gold. Of those buried here, some of them are related to Dustin Yu.
The reason we're here is because this is also where my ancestors were buried. There are 5 generations here.
While this cemetery is in a very busy area now, Yu says back then that wasn't the case, and it was placed here for a specific reason. Many immigrants faced discrimination.
The Chinese originally were not allowed to be buried in what you would call the regular cemetery. They had to be buried elsewhere.
Now the cemetery is maintained by the Auburn Joss House, and this year's Qingming Festival at the cemetery is a first in a very long time.
We really want to preserve the observation of Qingming because it has not been celebrated here for a good 100 years or so. 1, 2, 3, chop! We also have a whole chicken. It's called bak chit gai. They have head, tail, and feet because it symbolizes wholeness. We're presenting those along with the oranges and sweets and rice, and most important of all, wine and tea, offerings for the ancestors.
A first in nearly a century, and hopefully not the last.
It's a real honor to me to be able to do this for my ancestors, especially since nobody's done it in almost 100 years, and I was able to have the space to do this.
In Auburn, Jeannie Nguyen, ABC 10.
Look at this, you guys.
This wall is historic.
When you stand back and you look at something like this, it's like, okay.
In more ways than one.
Crazy, huh?
In 2023, Tin Ho was sworn in as the very first Asian American Sacramento County District Attorney.
Out of 2,400 elected district attorneys in the entire country, I am only the 10th that is currently of API descent.
His journey started like many Vietnamese Americans, escaping Vietnam by boat during the war in the 1970s, looking for a better life.
My family and I, we were taken to a refugee camp in Malaysia, where I spent 6 months in that refugee camp. Eventually we were sponsored, and eventually we made our way to San Jose, where I grew up.
Ho got into law because he wanted to see more people like him and believed representation mattered. In 2019, the American Bar Foundation found only 14 Asian Americans were elected as prosecutors nationwide out of nearly 2,400.
The more representation that you have, the more that you can then serve the community in a way that is reflective of the community.
In 2024, that representation is obvious within this very office. Rochelle Beardsley.
I'm an Assistant Chief Deputy District Attorney.
Born in the Philippines, Beardsley and her entire family moved to the United States when she was only 6, and she never imagined she'd end up having a law career.
6-year-old me didn't know what a lawyer was. In the Philippines, there was a dictatorship, my family lived through.
But after a very special internship, Beardsley was hooked.
I interned at the DA's office. My first year in law school, I went to Davis for law school. And that was the best experience.
Now, 24 years working at the very office she started as an intern, Beardsley reflects while looking at this wall of past DAs.
Tin's an inspiration to me. As soon as he was sworn in as the district attorney, he promoted me. I was a supervisor in 2014. And then when he was sworn in 2023, Tin promoted me to assistant chief to run the Community and Government Relations Bureau.
Diversity also extends into the crime lab. That's where you'll find criminalist and DNA technical leader Joy Veray. At the start of her career 23 years ago, Veray remembers being one of the only Filipino-American employees in the lab at the time.
I had one additional Asian coworker who had already been here for a while, and then one who was hired like 2 months before me. So we were really new in this lab setting.
Even though Veray was born in Salinas, her parents made sure she never lost sight of her heritage.
There was definitely a difference between what you did outside school and all those normal things versus versus how they raised us within our home. I had that traditional Filipino Catholic background.
Nursing was important to her family, and Veray was encouraged to pursue that career. Instead, science was her calling, and it wasn't until an infamous crime in the 90s that got her looking into forensics.
When I was in college, O.J. Simpson happened, and it really opened up people's awareness of forensic science. And I was a genetics major, so I decided to pursue that.
Since the start of her career, Veray is one of many AAPI employees within the DA's office.
I would see no different, a trend growing as time goes on of increased representation.
It's a goal DA Ho says he's hoping will take off nationwide.
We're creating a pipeline of other leaders so that Asian prosecutors, so that we have API people apply and become prosecutors, and that they then become supervisors, and that they then become executives. And then create that pipeline where one day they may want to become a judge or they may want to become a DA.
It's about representation. It's important. I do see good things to come.
My name is Lisa Hafoka. I am Tongan. I was born and raised in New Zealand. I'm an immigrant to the U.S. and I am the TOFA president of To'utupu o Otu Felinite Association. So To'utupu o Otu Felinite Association means Youth Leaders of the Pacific. My mother was the original founder of TOFA, Catherine Ofaman. She was approached by some of her friends in the community. They were finding that a lot of our Pacific Islander youth were getting in trouble with the law back in the late 90s, so she was an advocate for them. The mission of TOFA is to preserve and enhance the welfare of the Pacific Islanders, and we accomplished that by providing resources for higher education, things to do with health and wellness, community and civic engagement, and last but not least, our cultural arts preservation. Growing up in New Zealand with a mixed Pacific Islander culture around me, I did know my Tongan heritage, but when I moved here, I learned a lot more from meeting a lot of family members. We are not all athletes and we are not all just dancers. That's the biggest misconceptions about Pacific Islanders. We are a family-loving people, a God-fearing people. The education and our love for God and our family is high priorities. As a Pacific Islander, I know that there are a lot of things, a lot of needs that our Pacific Islanders have, and a lot of good that our Pacific Islanders can give to the community.